We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Your host here, DJ Hilson, for yet another episode diving into the unique qualities of various units of government and their function, and certainly, hopefully, you get a little education as well as to how important these different roles play. Today, I have the honor and privilege to interview Lieutenant Austin Aamodt of the Muskegon County Sheriff's Department. Austin, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here.
Great. Well, as always, I like to have my guests sort of talk about themselves to start the episode. So, talk a little bit about your career path into law enforcement and certainly the different avenues you've had in the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, glad to. Thank you, DJ. So, started off, I'll take you back not too far, but I was actually at Central Michigan University where I started my undergrad. Thought I wanted to be a teacher and changed things up. So January of 2009, made the switch to Ferris State University, started their criminal justice track. And that summer, reached out to, it was Sergeant Gary Burdinsky at the time, who was the head of Marine Division, and bobbed on the water for that summer and really enjoyed it. And that kind of really started the passion for law enforcement. Continued with that the next 3 summers. Graduated from Ferris's Academy in 2011, and got hired full-time August of 2011. And so started as a deputy on the road and did my training there till 2017 when I promoted to sergeant. From there, I oversaw several deputies and reviewed reports, a little more administrative work. And 2023 promoted to road lieutenant, overseeing law enforcement division.
So let's talk a little bit about that transition. Certainly from the time that you came in as a road deputy, obviously different roles and responsibilities, and you certainly you had the opportunity to establish relationships, work with colleagues, to then becoming sort of the supervisor, maybe of some of those same colleagues. So talk a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, that dynamic is strange. Even as a deputy at 24 years old, going to various calls for service and telling grown adults how to maybe behave or act. So that initial, from being a college student to that, was strange. But then, yes, exactly right, spot on. Some of my field training officers I was then supervising. So that dynamic, it was different. But I think it was easier for the transition because they knew how hard I worked to get to where I was at and promoting as a sergeant, a young sergeant. And so I think it was a little bit easier transition. But yeah, it wasn't any problems per se. They respected me and I respected them. I mean, they helped train me and make me who I am. So
as lieutenant now of the law enforcement division, what are, certainly it's not jumping in a patrol car anymore necessarily and taking calls of service, but you still serve an important role sort of in the overall function of that. So describe that for us, please. Yes.
So oversee law enforcement division, or help with overseeing law enforcement division. I supervise our sergeants directly. There are 6 sergeants, 1 in the courts, 1 in the detective bureau, 4 on the road. And we have 45 deputies between courts and road that I also help oversee. Now, the day-to-day, the sergeants, they are helping me out tremendously, supervising their deputies. So they report back to me if there's issues or things of that nature, right? A complaint comes in that they've handled, and if we move further with things, I'll assist with that. But my more day-to-day is involved with training, scheduling training for the department. I assist with that. Quartermaster equipment, so ordering uniforms, getting things lined up with different equipment purchases, whether it's uniform equipment, vests, fitting, firearms, etc. And then grants, help oversee OHSP, which is Office of Highway Safety Planning. It's a multi-agency grant, so we oversee 4 other agencies along with us, so 5 total, that have various overtime postings. I'm sure you've seen some on our page, as well as maybe Norton Shores, City of Muskegon, Muskegon Charter Township, or North Muskegon, about distracted driving, speed enforcement. So I oversee that grant, as well as we try to pursue other funds to help pay for things, right?
Right. Well, I mean, as a lot of us know in government, sometimes you really have to think outside the box in order to make sure that we're funding the initiatives and programs that are necessary to not only make your deputies and other fellow law enforcement better, but to keep the community safe. Yes, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some of why it's important for these enforcement initiatives. It's usually right around this time you start seeing it's not like it's a secret, the big sign saying, "Hey, by the way, we're checking for seatbelts."
Right.
You mentioned distracted driving. That is I won't say a new phenomenon, but certainly something that I think has drawn the attention of a lot of folks, that there has to be some enforcement mechanism in order to make sure people understand how important it is to be attentive behind the wheel. So talk about some of those initiatives and why it's so important that law enforcement, in particular the Sheriff's Department, does those things.
Yeah, so absolutely. Distracted driving's been a staple. Now, previously, being a prosecutor, that law was a little gray in some areas. Now that we've gone completely hands-free, easier and better for us to enforce. And why is it important? I mean, distracted driving, you look at statistics from whether it's NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Association, or even OHSP, where they get their information from NHTSA. Comparative, having your head in your phone is like impaired driving and delayed reaction times. So having enforcement, and sometimes it's education as well, right? There's that discretion piece. But yeah, we want to try to inform and educate drivers. Then that is why we put things out, whether it's a banner outside our agency for the public to see, or we're putting stuff on our social media page, right? It's not just strictly we're not just enforcing only, we're trying to educate and get other information, other avenues to disseminate the information to people. And, I would say so the month of April was Distracted Driving Month, just in creating awareness. And throughout that month, towards the end, when we do have our posted overtimes, we were seeing less and less violators because of, whether it's a presence. I'd like to think it's a combination of presence and the education. But yeah, we do speed, impaired driving, no seatbelt, because those are some of those things that we'll see related to our traffic crashes, right? Whether it's the distracted driving, as cheesy as it does sound, speed does kill. Unfortunately, out county areas, we've seen it, and on our highways. And seatbelts, important, keeping people inside vehicles. Rarely, if someone's ejected out of a car, are they surviving. So some of these things that we do as far as those staples of enforcement for OHSP, they are important to keeping people safe.
Well, and again, I think you kind of hit it where it's not necessarily looking to throw the book at people, right? Or
right.
Hey, listen, we have to write these citations for whatever purpose. It is a form of education, and I think you guys do it quite well, keeping us all safe, essentially.
Trying.
So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned, which it's an interesting dynamic, the patrol or law enforcement division being coupled with the courts. And what role does the sheriff's department play within the court system, within the courthouse?
Yeah, so we have court security. There's front door security. We have public defender positions, which we're helping, whether it's movement of a inmate to meet with a public defender, security on that as well. And then our day-to-day with our circuit court and district court bailiffs, as well as family court. So we're a lot of moving pieces and parts over there on that end. I'm at a separate building, but they're shuffling around inmates, whether it's Zoom or in person, to meet with judges, their attorneys. They help handle the security side of inmate movement from the jail to the courthouse or courtrooms.
What have you found? Again, you're I won't say young in your career, but you're of that sort of age bracket where technology was almost a norm,
right? Versus
some of us old gray-haired people. How has technology? I'll ask it in two parts. How has technology helped in your role, and what have been some of the challenges with technology?
Yeah, so yes, it's a lot of what I've known, right? I can remember as a deputy, we transitioned from tough books, our MCTs, to Dells, and I was without an in-car laptop for 2 months, and I thought the world ended. So, it's a little different to rely solely on the radio, but again, it's important why we do those things, even back in our training with our probationers on phonetics and radio usage, right? Because technology does fail us, unfortunately, sometimes. And the more we rely on it and want it to work, it won't work, right? And so it's important to be able to study a map and do some of those basics. So being out county, sometimes our networks aren't always great either, whether it's we get a drop in our service. And so having those basic things, while as a probationer, it gives us a good baseline to build off of. Technology, how has it helped us? Yeah, everything's at our fingertips. And we can get to, even AI, right? It's a new thing in law enforcement world, but being able to just expedite and do things faster, I would say technology has helped us. There's so many different avenues it has, whether it's in our detective bureau, on search warrants and cell phones, and just gathering data on electronics. Things tend to move a little bit faster than maybe what they did years ago. But yeah, I relatively young in this career. I'm coming up on 14 years. So, and it doesn't seem like it. It's been that long. But yes, I grew up in the technology world, and so I have also had to assist and help some of my cohorts and colleagues on certain things in that, whether it's saving a PDF or whatever. So
yeah, there's a lot of foreign language out there if you're not used to it, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about your role on our county emergency response team. And maybe I want to start with, the historical aspect of it. Because this, in some respects, it's relatively new or a newer concept for Muskegon County. It hasn't been around for as long as at least I've been here. So talk about historically, how did this develop and what were the sort of the reasons behind it?
Yeah, so it actually began kind of in 2004, was the initial startup. Sheriff Michael Poulin and former Chief John Gill and former Captain Jimmy Christensen were kind of some original people that helped start this up. Partly from FEMA money and the World Trade Center's 9/11 attacks, there was a lot of push to have these types of resources for agencies, and whether it be county level, city, what have you. They started in 2004, and after years of training, they went active. 2007, 2008, I believe, is when they went active. They trained for 3 or 4 years. Some responsibilities of ERT, the emergency response team, are to assist with maybe a call that gets out of the scope of normal patrol, what they can handle. Not that our patrol can't handle everything, but we have some additional tools that can help assist with something. I started on the team in 2013. It was when I went to basic SWAT. So everybody that is going to be on our ERT, there's a basic SWAT school. It's a week-long school. That is a prerequisite to becoming an active member. If we get hired before that, because they're typically in the fall, they can come to our monthly trainings, which we have, and we have one team week-long training a year. So, yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. We are, originally it was just Muskegon County and Norton Shores PD. Now we've grown. We are multi-agency. Norton Shores Fire has always been on it as well, having TAC medics on our team. But we've added Muskegon Charter Township, Muskegon Heights PD, Roosevelt Park PD as well. And we're always looking for growth like anywhere else. Numbers come and they jump up and they come back down with whether it's retirement or people transitioning off because of other responsibilities within their own agencies.
Well, and I think it's important, and I'll maybe have you describe that. You mentioned that it's sort of an extra resource when the situation gets to a point where, the normal way of handling things maybe isn't the way to go. And so ultimately, this is not a team that's on regular patrol. It's what I like to call a call out. Mm-hmm. So it's a 24/7 deal. Yep. And ultimately, some of the resource, I guess, describe a little bit some of the resources. You mentioned obviously the on-team medics and certainly maybe some of the tactical things that, situations where this team might be more apt to be used as opposed to sitting on the sidelines. Yeah, so
a popular, I won't say popular, but a common call out would be a felonious assault with a weapon type situation where I'll use an example of the county responds to a domestic, all right? And we can just say female, male, half, and a weapon's involved. The other half gets out, and it's maybe just the offender inside of a house. Rather than maybe going in and putting ourselves in harm's way right away on the roadside, we will kind of lock down that house with a perimeter. ERT, we have a matrix on a scoring sheet where we want to get so many points before we'll do a mandatory activation. Usually it's me or the assistant team commander, Sergeant Scott Van Weilen from Norton Shores PD. We receive a phone call on what the situation is. We want to obtain a search warrant and arrest warrant beforehand. And as long as we have enough points, we'll do a team activation where we respond to that location. We would then relieve kind of an inner perimeter and have patrol or deputies or officers, whomever, bump out to an outer perimeter and help shut things down for us. And then, we have different tools, whether it be shields or less lethal or robots, drones, to just try to communicate and, right, we want to resolve things peacefully, of course, right? And I'd rather not use ERT, right? It's a resource and it's great that we have it. But if we're getting called out to it, it's kind of gotten past a point where things might be going south, or right, it's a bad enough situation where we got to come and assist. So,
well, yeah, and I think one of the things that I think people think of, certainly if you're in an area where the emergency response team is activated and working, that this is like the show of force and muscle. We're gonna barge in there and we're take no prisoners kind of thing. And from what I've experienced and what you've said, it's actually quite the opposite.
Yes.
That there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are actually folks that are trained, what I'll call negotiators, where we're looking for peaceful ways to end the situation as opposed to a show of force.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a Muskegon County negotiator team. That, yes, exactly that. We're notifying them on these call-out situations. And yeah, early on, right, like anything in law enforcement, unfortunately, we learn from our mistakes, whether it be somebody getting hurt or, hopefully not, but we learn from it. And yeah, the days of rushing in, first one to the back of the house, they've kind of come and gone, right? It's the highest potential for us to get hurt. And so, or somebody else. And so it's more of a surrounding call out, more slow, methodical. These are kind of the things that we've transitioned to. Not that we can't do a more fast or dynamic entry if needed. There's different situations for sure. But yes, if it's a surrounding call out situation, we have a single occupant, maybe an offender in a house. There's no other known people in the house. But it's a barricaded situation. So we can be a little bit slower. Introduce whether it's different technology or, just negotiators communicating with them, to try to have that peaceful resolution to come out, right? We're not going to go anywhere. We're not going away. And so we would rather have people come out and we'll deal with the next steps after that. But yeah, we're securing places and people and then turning over to that originating agency for the investigative part.
Certainly, obviously valuable resource. And I think what's really important also to highlight is this idea that whether you're being used or not being used, because you're not being used more than you're being used. Let's just say it that way. But the important thing is that there's this training component, right? Always making sure that you're training on whatever, even if it's just what I'll call practice. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mentioned monthly trainings, and 1 week a year we go away as a team. Yes, whether it's working on our entry tactics, maybe it's a new, less lethal piece of equipment we've obtained. 2 of those trainings a year, we do our qualifications and physical testing. We have, there's a physical testing and standards, and as well as our shooting. So we want to be proficient in those things and make sure we're passing. And if not, there's time to make up and make sure that we're passing those things. If not, then there's a reason we do have standards. And so our tactical medics, they do a great job of giving us additional tactical medical training. There's vehicle operations. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces, but and sometimes if we get a house that's going to be destroyed that we find out about, it's a different look at, yes, doing just that, a practice run of maybe it's a mock call out situation where we're doing all those things, right? We have an 8-hour day. We know some call outs can last much longer than that. But yeah, if we do a mock call out situation and we do a run for 4 to 6 hours and we kind of simulate some of those things with some people that want to be involved and help us out as role players, and great, right? So those things kind of come up on the fly, and I'm sure around county, yes, some people have seen those vehicles driving around, and we try to put up training signs to not alert people. But it's our emergency operations center it's a large fire truck that's been painted black. What they got from in 2003, and so some community events we've done. I'm sure some people have seen the vehicles as well. So
let's talk a little bit about. There's 2 parts that I want to get to before we finish. But one is, you mentioned, and I think this emergency response team is a good example of that. The sort of cooperation, collaboration from other area law enforcement agencies. In your career here at the Sheriff's Department, what have you? I guess what has been your experience as it relates to the collaborative and cooperative spirit amongst other law enforcement agencies here within Muskegon County?
Yeah, so it's been great. Personally, and I think by and large have not had an issue with any agency within the county working well together. Several of them we border, right? I mean, I know they have their jurisdictions and areas, and us being the county, yeah, sure, we could go anywhere, right? We don't, unless they're asking for assistance. But, North Muskegon, Muskegon Charter Township, Montague, Whitehall, Fruitport, City of Muskegon, we're bordering some of these places in our calls for service, right? And MSP is helping us too, taking out county calls. But yeah, as far as a collaboration, it's been great over the years, whether, Chief Sane or Chief Kozel over there, increased patrols with deputies just to show presence, right? Or to interact with the public in the community. I mean, it's something that's very important. We want to have those good relationships. Unfortunately, when people see us, it's not always under the best circumstances. But, we try to have good interaction with our community, with the people within our community. But yeah, as far as a collaborative with other agencies, it's been great.
That's awesome. So the outreach, yeah, as you indicated, I mean, it may be more so today than ever before. This idea of maintaining sort of that balance between establishing positive, strong, trustworthy relationships within the community versus the community understanding that, law enforcement has a role to play and a job to do. What has been your experience in balancing that, and how important is these community outreach, whether it be events or other things, where the sheriff's department can be a presence in a sort of a positive atmosphere?
Yeah, so being out county or being part of the sheriff's department can be a little bit harder and difficult with some of our community events. I would say a majority are within Norton Shores, City of Muskegon, right, Farmers Market, Muskegon Charter Township. We've done some Touch a Truck events at Rank of America. But we also have within some of our villages or townships, some events that's been great. Ravenna Dog Days is coming up. And, we usually have one or two deputies that will come and do some walking around and interacting with the people. And yeah, it's always great. I think over the years, it's cyclical, right? Law enforcement and the public, our community, it's always been good in Muskegon. Obviously, we see some things going on outside of our communities, and maybe some of those interactions haven't been always favorable or great, but by and large, it seems like in Muskegon, we've always fared well. And I think it is because of some of those interactions with the public, whether it's the Polar ice cream truck, going around, and just something as simple as giving out ice cream and having conversations. When I was a deputy, even a sergeant on the road and still responding to calls for service, having some of those additional conversations, taking an extra 5 minutes and talking with somebody, it can make a big difference. And so, and that's an education piece too, right? Sometimes people just see something on the news and we can get labeled, right? One bad apple can ruin it for everybody. There's a lot more good than bad in our profession. I would say 100%. And you talk to any one of us, and if there's a bad one, we don't like them either. But yeah, the events over the years have definitely helped that relationship.
Well, excellent. Well, Austin, thank you for the time today. Appreciate it. Thank you, more importantly, for your service. Not only to the Sheriff's Department, but Muskegon County as a whole. Appreciate it very much. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Glad I could be here. Thank you, DJ.
That ends this episode of Muskegon Municipalities at Work. Thank you for your continued support and tuning in and learning more about our areas of government throughout the entire county and how important those roles play in making sure that we get a chance to live, work, and play in an awesome community. As always, this does not happen without the ingenuity of one Mike Vogus.